There are clearly good movies and clearly bad movies, but sometimes we like to do our own research, and it's like totally gonna be okay, babe. And like this guy on the podcast is totally telling me the truth in order to find out what is everything in the middle. This is good, bad, good.
You can't say that. You don't love me.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Alice, just think. Think about your life and what you actually want.
Delusions, memory problems, hysteria. We saw these issues with Margaret and know that it's completely curable. Dr. Collins prescribed you a suite of medications which you were clearly not taking. The question is why?
He's lying to us. He's lying to all of us.
It's kind of a spoiler, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, the whole, yeah, but no.
It's actually
Kinda.
not.
But I mean, they're going to be listening.
Yeah, we're about to spoil everything
podcast
anyway.
about the movie, which is all a spoiler.
No,
so.
agreed. But I'm just saying. Anyways,
I liked it.
How's it
Except
going
for in
out
the
there?
1960s, they didn't say totally.
yeah, I know, but it's modern day.
Yes, but the
That's why I'm
virtual
saying
simulation is what would we guess? 62?
I think
If you can't
I'm going
tell
50s.
from our incoherent rambling out there, we are doing essentially a word-for-word remake of Don't Worry, Darling, because that also didn't make sense. This week we watched Don't Worry, Darling, the 2022 film directed by Olivia Wilde. And I will say, when I went to watch this movie, on the top of my notes, I'm like, I need to do better about like talking about the movies. I need to write down who the director was, who the DP was, who the producer was, who the editor was.
I said that last time, and I wrote them all down, and then we didn't, and then there was no point in the fucking episode.
I
where
wrote
could-
all of those things down.
Yeah.
I wrote director, DP, producer, editor, and I left them completely blank.
It's a good thing we have IMDb so we can look these
Well,
things
we
up.
also do know
The
Olivia Wilde,
only one I
so-
wrote was Olivia Wilde, who directed it, which
That's the
everyone
only one you didn't
obviously
need to
already
write
knows that.
down.
And it's probably, yeah, and it's probably why you're watching, because she directed it. But it was written by Katie Silberman, Carrie Van Dyke, and Shane Van Dyke.
Good
So-
old
Do we
Shane
Do you know
Van
much about the
Dyke.
Van Dyke family? What else have they done? Are you on
I don't know. This is just my
the
notes, okay?
IMDb's?
No,
right now?
this is just my notes.
Titanic 2.
Oh, what? There's a Titanic 2?
Yeah.
Did you ever see the trailer for Titanic 2?
Who
A
made
century,
Titanic 2?
a century after the fateful voyage of the original, modern luxury liner Titanic 2 set sail. Will this ship suffer the same fate as her namesake? Came out in 2010. It was written by Shane Van Dyke, who also co-wrote this. That explains a lot.
Did
Have you not seen
they
it, Kyle?
suffer the same fate?
Oh, he was also an actor in it.
Was there also a Rose and a Jack?
We don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know because
don't
none of
know.
us have ever seen it.
No.
Wait, do you guys actually remember this coming out? I don't remember
No, I
ever hearing
didn't.
about
Literally
this movie.
until 5 seconds ago, I didn't know this was a thing.
But before we jump ahead, how are we doing
I don't think we
today?
were even jumping ahead. We were just straying way off topic.
Yeah.
A little sleepy, but I'm okay.
A little sleepy? Okay.
little sleepy.
Brian?
I actually slept horribly last night, so I am a little sleepy as well.
Great. We're all in wonderful shape. How are
Did
you
you
doing,
sleep
Travis?
horribly because the Eagles won?
No.
Like,
I always
you were too excited?
That helps me sleep better. When it is a night game, win or lose, I do sleep poorly, but I also suffer from bad insomnia, which is what helps me or hurts me from sleeping.
That got real.
Got
really
real.
quick. And
Well,
I
listen,
didn't really know.
We're,
How
we're
did you
real.
sleep
We're real
last night?
people.
Real people.
We're real
I-
people.
Like the
Since moving into this new
Jersey
space, I
Shore.
sleep
Yeah.
terribly.
Ooh.
Like, this apartment gets no natural light whatsoever. Because we're like buried in this, like, I don't know if you've seen the side of the apartment, but it's nothing but trees. So like it's
just
dark
in
and
here?
green all day. Like
When I
the,
sleep,
the
I prefer
whole
the
apartment
darkness,
is just
though.
Yeah,
all
I was gonna say that would actually.
No,
I, feel
I
like that
know,
would make me
but I
sleep
feel
all the
like
time
me
and not ever be
personally,
able to
I
wake up.
rely on sunlight coming through the window to like wake me up and like get me out of the like heaviness of sleep.
Well,
Where
right.
I wake up and I feel like I've been hit by a truck still.
Because you're still
Whether
yeah.
I sleep 8 hours or whether I sleep 6 hours.
That could also be the fact that I feel like we are experiencing a winter in LA for like the first time in a while.
I was going to say the last time I felt like this was when I lived in New York.
Yeah.
And then when we moved back to LA and we lived in the other apartment, we're facing that back and like we got nothing but natural light coming through the windows.
Yeah.
Even last winter. Like it's just
What
well,
dropped,
it felt
the
like-
temps dropped down to like 70
dreary,
degrees.
and it wasn't raining until like February or something.
Did the temps drop down to like 70 degrees? Is it winter in LA?
It was
it's been in the
actually
40s, Brian.
39
That's actually
degrees
colder
in
than it's been
Topanga
here.
Canyon last night where I was working without heat lamps outside.
It's almost 70 here now. Like right now at
Yeah.
9 o'clock at night.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's not what's happening here.
Yeah.
So anyway, what movie did we watch today?
As I said before, we did Don't Worry, Darling.
I actually blacked out there for a minute. I was like, yeah, what are we doing? I was just
Charlie's
enjoying
Angels
our talk
2.
about weather.
Fully loaded.
Yeah.
Fully reloaded.
Charlie's Angels, the
Fully-
Kristen Stewart.
Reloaded
Full.
fully. Reloaded the gun.
Charlie's
All
Angels,
sorts of
we never
full.
actually unloaded the gun, so no need to reload. Cool. Anyway,
Oh my gosh, do they not shoot in that movie?
They just chop.
Okay.
You know?
Before we get into the verdicts on Don't Worry, Darling, we need a plot synopsis for everyone out there. And I need to silence my phone. Hey, Google, what's the plot synopsis for Don't Worry, Darling?
According to Wikipedia.org, the film follows an idyllic housewife living in a company town who begins to suspect a sinister secret being kept from its residents by the man who runs it. Do you want a little more context?
No.
it doesn't usually ask those.
I
or
want to
like,
know why. I want to know why Google thinks we need more context.
and
Well,
also,
I wonder if she wants to know, like, do you want me to spoil it a little bit more? Because it's like, that's like literally just the setup.
but
Google
Google
is
never
like-
asks that.
Nobody understood this movie, so I've been asked several times if I could re-explain. Would
Yeah.
you like me to tell you more?
Yeah, exactly. Verdicts. I will say, neither of you text messaged or like messaged a group or anything like that. No, and usually, typically, one of you is like, I want 2 hours back, or
So-
I
That's
can't
just-
believe
I
I'm a part of
almost-
this podcast.
I almost sent a
or-
text, and I was like, I'm gonna start saving it for when we record. So I held off sending a text.
And did you feel like you wasted your life and time?
No, I did not.
Just tell us your verdict, Brian.
What?
Just tell us your verdict.
I
The
said it was
listeners want to know.
a bad good movie.
Travis?
It was a bad, good movie.
I agree.
Oh,
It was a bad good movie.
3 for 3.
I was very
Well, I
borderline.
mean, really?
Yeah.
I was not. This, like, for me, was just a bad good movie.
I feel
Interesting.
conflicted about this movie, and we can get into it as we're talking about it. But I feel like I
think that's the
span
point of
the
the
range
podcast,
of
Brian.
emotions.
Wow.
Yeah,
This really did something for you.
it's
then.
surprising that I even had emotions, but I spanned the
Yeah,
range
that's
of
what I'm
them.
saying.
Yeah.
Like you're spanning them, like you're going past the typical anger that you just feel.
I'm growing. I'm maturing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm maturing.
To let the listeners know, as we said last week, and I think the week before in the bonus episode, this season we are doing picks. And actually, Don't Worry, Darling was one of my picks. And the reason I wanted to pick it is because of the context that Google wanted to tell us, probably not, about the film and the history of it. So for those of you who don't know, the script for Don't Worry, Darling was on the blacklist in 2019. And for those of you who don't know what the blacklist is, it's this list of unproduced scripts every single year that are essentially like the best of the best scripts out there that writers, if you get your script on the blacklist, like a lot of people are probably going to reach out to you in hopes to like get this produced in some way. There's essentially a lot of hype around the scripts that are on the blacklist. In 2019, this was on the blacklist. It was very hyped up. Olivia Wilde was coming off of Booksmart,
which was also on the blacklist.
and yeah, which was also on the blacklist. And she had a lot of hype around her. and the teaming up, there was this bidding war for this script, and it eventually went to whatever production company it went with. I believe it's Warner Brothers. And Olivia Wilde got to direct it. So there was a lot of anticipation for this film. A lot of people wanted to see it done. A lot of people wanted to see Olivia Wilde to see if she could repeat the success of Booksmart. And then the cast list started to come out. And I don't know how we felt about cast lists as it was coming out, now that I'm saying it out loud. I don't know.
What did you not like about the cast list?
No,
do you feel
I was
like...
just trying to see if I was just trying to get at if there was anticipation for the cast, because like
Sure.
I don't remember
Pugh,
anyone.
Harry Styles.
I feel like
I mean,
people
these are big
would have been excited
names.
about Harry Styles for like not acting reasons, though.
Sure, but that's half the reason that Hollywood pulls people into their movies.
touche.
It's just like, here's a name.
Touche.
All this to say, that was all the backstory, and then it came out, and then it was just a dumpster fire of like press, and a lot of people were talking about everything going around the film and not the actual film. And I think I had told you before, Kai. I don't think I've said it to Brian before, but I kind of felt bad for Olivia Wilde, and I know a lot of people are taking sides and whatever because we're in the society that we live in now, and everyone needs to take sides. But I just feel like there's a lot of very terrible directors out there that are men, and they get away with so much crap. And like, I just felt like there was this barrage of hatred towards Olivia Wilde off of like, not to diminish what she did or what she's allegedly done, but like I feel like we should still be able to support the movie and like watch the movie and be able to critique it as art.
Yeah, and
As
at
a
the
piece
end of
of
the
art.
day, we're not in her relationships.
Yeah.
So leave it the fuck alone. Like, that's how
Exactly.
I feel, honestly. She didn't,
Yeah.
this was not a case of like an older director being with an underaged actor on set, or
Yeah.
like, it's like these
It's
are
not Kevin
just, these are
Spacey or,
adults
like, yeah.
that did some things, and let's stay out of their business,
Yeah.
you know? But of course, that's like, when there is so much drama around such a thing, though, it does make me wonder if, like, one, of course, that's going to sell. So we know that that's why that comes out. But two, there's also that question, which I know has been the question. And I don't know if I really am asking the question to seriously ask the question, because I don't think I believe this. But
Wait,
it's
what's your
just
question?
interesting. Well, let me ask it. It's just interesting that there's that question of, like, was there so much press and hype done around the drama of the actual movie because people saw the movie and went, oh, this is not going to be what we thought it was
Yeah.
going to be. The execution of this was not.
I do wonder, though, because there have been other movies that had to have had some sort of drama behind the scenes, whether it's between actors, between director and actors, whatever the case may be, that are just like whatever movies. But like, is it because Olivia Wilde is a female director? Is it because Harry Styles is like the biggest name in the world right now? Like, there seem to be
Is
a
it because
lot.
they're both really hot, so thinking about them having an affair is extra scandalous?
Is it
yeah,
because
it's like,
oh, now I'm forgetting the fucking Ted Lasso is involved indirectly as well.
Jason Sudeikis?
Yes.
So you bring up a good point, but I do feel, and like we're going away from the film now, but I do feel like
It's all tangentially related, though.
yeah, of course. I do feel like a lot of people are rallying on, if, again, to go back to like, if we're picking sides, are rallying around his side and like, oh, I feel so bad for like Jason Sudeikis and like they did this and they did that. And then they even came out with like joint statements saying like, this is what happened, this is what didn't happen. And people are like, yeah, that's not real. Like, they don't really mean. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean?
Well,
like,
and also,
how are we still not believing like their own statements?
because it's not as good of a story, and people crave
But
drama. And
my point
story.
being, there's still like, oh no, she's still a bitch. She's still blah blah blah. But I'm like, he literally just said like, these things happened
Yeah.
and didn't happen.
well, and I'm a big Jason Sudeikis guy, but
people like Brian.
whether he was responsible for the timing of this or not, she got served divorce papers, I think it was,
Yeah.
on stage at a
It was at CinemaCon.
yeah, which like you could look at him and be like, that's a fucked up thing to do.
Oh
Whether
my gosh,
or
I
not-
100% thought that as
and,
soon as
like,
I heard that.
he doesn't. I don't know whether or not he was like, do it now, or whether they just did it because they can be dicks and they knew she'd be there. But I mean,
Or
if anything,
they did it because whoever is the guy that served the divorce papers was like, oh, here's my opportunity for 15 minutes of fame.
Exactly.
And it had nothing to do with Jason Sudeikis.
And we don't even know who that person was.
Yeah.
spoiler alert,
Everyone's gonna want an interview with me.
Yeah.
Guys,
how did Jason approach you?
It was me, and nobody asked for an interview.
No one wanted to interview you, Brian?
So I actually, just to like, I'm not a person that pays much attention to these things. I'm not on Twitter. I don't like run down the rabbit hole of celebrity gossip or drama because
I don't think you want to get on Twitter now, but yeah.
No, but I didn't even before.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know any of these stories when I saw this movie on the list. I was just like, oh, I remember seeing that trailer.
Really?
Nope, none. I really don't pay attention.
I could have sworn we had a
stuff.
conversation about it.
We did after I was like, oh, I love that this movie is on there. And then we had a conversation about that. But you kind of like told me semi what happened. So then, and I couldn't really remember. So when I watched the movie, I really just like was like, I'm not going to look up the drama until after I watch the movie because I really just want to look at this movie from like without any of that in my brain. And then I was like, none of that drama has to do with the movie anyways.
So I'll say the only thing, because like, and I kind of knew, I don't really, if it's not music or sports related, I don't really care about like that kind of drama or gossip.
Brian's lying. He lives on Twitter.
No, I do live on Twitter, but it's all sports and music
Twitter
stuff.
gives me
like...
notifications for Brian's tweets, even though I've muted him. That's how
You
much he
muted
lives
me?
on Twitter. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
Oh, he was so
Wow.
hurt.
That's
That
so
was
hurtful.
deep sadness.
That was so
Actually,
hurtful.
that right there, that reaction showed us how deep Brian lives on Twitter. That was like
No, it has nothing to do with Twitter.
like,
It's the fact that
Travis
he
would
wants
be
to
like,
silence me.
your wife is in the hospital, and I don't know if it would have been if you would take it as painfully.
You'd be like, yeah, I know Dov is in the hospital, but you muted
You muted me?
Right, exactly.
How am I going to tell you that she's in the hospital?
It's true. You got to tweet me. You got to tweet at me. Otherwise, I'm not going to know. No, I do love many things about the Twitter app. We're not going to get into that, right? The other stuff right now. But I don't care about like celebrity gossip like that. But I knew most of it. But going in to this movie, the only thing I was curious about was the alleged spit incident with Harry Styles and Chris Pine.
Ooh, what was that?
They were at the Venice Film Festival. What?
Sorry, I just love that. I was like, I don't like celebrity
Yeah,
gossip.
and I'm like,
as soon
ooh,
as
tell
she said
me.
that, I was like, tell me all the details.
There's this video of like the cast all sitting down at the Venice Film Festival right before they go to watch it, and like Harry like does this like thing on Chris Pine, and Chris Pine like sits there and makes this face of like right after Harry Styles does that.
Can you give us that to us again? Yes, kind of is great.
So a lot of people are like, oh, he spit on Chris Pine. People hate each other. And then there's the other thing with like Florence Pugh. She didn't go to the premiere. She wasn't promoting it on social media. She didn't say any like nice things about Olivia Wilde, all this stuff.
The gossip. And now we are on a podcast gossiping even more.
Yes.
We're just
I was just
repeating
about
the
to say-
gossip.
Yeah, I was just trying to give context behind this film and the dumpster fire its press release was.
Right.
But from here on out, this will be the last of the gossip. We will strictly be talking about the film as a film.
We can't promise
as a
that.
as a piece of cinema.
We
I
will
will
have
do that.
some integrity today.
I can't promise
if
that.
we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
I
try.
don't know if
I
you two
really-
can. I can promise that.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so the first category we'll be talking about is the plot, synopsis, story, and narrative structure. Does anyone feel strongly about going first?
I don't feel strongly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I feel as though if I really go down the rabbit hole of talking about how I truly feel about this story, it's just going to be a bunch of nitpicks because none of it makes sense to me. Like there's this point, like it makes sense, but like none of it adds up to make this. Like I get what they're saying and I get the story they're telling, but everything, all the nuts and bolts in between that gets to that don't make sense.
What if we just start the podcast off today with all the nitpicks? Get them out of the way so we can actually talk about the movie because I have a couple myself.
Sure. That's actually a good idea.
I should stop clapping into my microphone, but I just love that you you pulled out the list. That's what I thought you were doing with your phone.
No,
You were
no,
like, sure.
No.
Flips over pages.
Okay. Can we do? Okay. Fun.
A nitpick round?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I go, and then Brian goes, and then you go, and then I go,
Great.
and then we go until we have no more.
I might actually have one only, but no.
Okay.
Go.
First nitpick. Why was there a plane that went overhead? A lot of my nitpicks are also questions that are never answered.
Right.
Yes.
That's kind of why I was like, I could tell when you were talking about the plot. That's why I was kind of like, let's do this first. Okay. Can I
Brian?
go next?
See, I question that too, but I don't know if I would call that a nitpick as much as just like a WTF, which I guess could be a nitpick, but it was more just like
a plot device
points
that doesn't make
don't
sense
make
for
sense
why it's in there.
and don't come back at all. For me,
Okay.
my nitpick would be, and I meant to go back and rewind this, but then I was just like, I didn't really want to rewatch it, so I didn't. But the first time you see Harry Styles, was his character Jack, I think. First time you see him drive off, like that whole scene where they're all like leaving for work the first time in the morning, he's driving a convertible. The next time you see him come home, it's nighttime. He pulls in, it's not a convertible. The next time you see him, I think you're going to say maybe the top was up. I'm pretty sure this is a different car. The third time
No,
see him,
it is a different car.
yeah. The third time, then he's
But
back in the
there's-
convertible.
It's
I thought,
Yeah, but
I
it's
thought he only
because
gets
of
two
the-
cars. I thought he starts with the Thunderbird, and then once he gets promoted, he gets the Corvette.
He does, and the Corvette, which he drives away in the beginning with, is like that's a jump in time, right? Because we go back in time after that. We don't realize that we do until later, but so that actually makes so the movie starts off with that scene where they all
Yeah.
drive away like that.
Yeah.
And then when we wait, what am I trying to say?
There were
No,
time.
sorry,
There were
this-
time jumps.
This made
No, there
no,
like
no. There's
no,
because she's wearing that same. So because I noted this when she comes out in the beginning of the movie, she's wearing a dress shirt, his dress shirt, we
Yeah.
assume.
Mhm.
And then at
and
the
then they
end
like
of the
make
movie,
love, right? Like,
yes,
as soon as he gets home.
right. And then later on in the movie, it's not at the end, but later on in the movie, we're back to her in that same dress shirt and that same scene. That scene like happens again later on in the movie.
Yeah,
and I think it was like a
I'm not talking about
time
that though. So there was
jump.
that scene in the beginning where he leaves in the convertible.
Isn't
and
that
then,
the same scene though?
no, so the scene that you're talking about, I think, is after she gets like her memory reset or whatever. The one
Right,
that I'm
right,
talking
right, right.
about happens before that, when it's still in the initial timeline of her, like before she's kind of started figuring everything out. He comes home from work and he's driving a hardtop sedan car that's not a convertible. But then he leaves, like the next time they show him leaving, he's driving that convertible again.
I only clocked the two cars. I only clocked the Thunderbird and the
Yeah,
Corvette.
so did I.
Yeah, then he gets
And
the
the one that's
promotion
like
and
he got
gets
a
the new
promotion.
But I'm
car,
not
but
saying
that's
you're
different.
wrong, Brian. I'm just saying that none of us know exactly what happened
Right.
in this entire movie.
I'm saying I
Okay.
think
Or
they
why.
don't even know what happened.
Okay, so my nitpick was when after she kills her husband, she being Florence Pugh, after she clocks Jack over the head with the thing glass.
The highball glass.
She walks out. The highball glass, thank you. She walks out and everyone's staring at her and she's like, well, first of all, there's this moment where you're like, do all the women think that, like, are all the women waking up now? Because they're all looking at her like, huh, what's going on? And all the men are like, no, go back in your house. And then she looks over to the corner and then something explodes. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And then a moment later, another thing explodes and I realized it was the second lamppost. So I'm like, okay, cool. What are we about to see? This whole world that's just going to like
Nothing.
erupt. So I thought this was like going to continue, right? And then there would be some sort of explanation of it. I don't know why I thought that since that is not at all how the rest of the movie had gone. But I was like, finally, we're going to like get to the stuff. And then it was just those two explosions.
That made no sense at all. Like, you think it's almost like the universe, like whoever the designer of this like program or universe or whatever, it's like he's hitting the abort button and it's all about to implode or something.
Right. Or that there was going to be some explanation that like because she figured it out and she's inside the system, then that's a glitch in the system. So things start breaking down. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think we can nitpick this to death. And I really loved your idea of us starting with the nitpicks, but I think we're going to take forever to get to all the other categories.
Let me just do one more.
So I'm going to end on my
Be quick. Okay, you go. And
Okay,
then I'll go.
I got one more too.
Okay, you
Yeah,
go.
come on.
Okay.
Nitpick it.
This
'Cause
is
this is
actually
bringing us the plot.
a nitpick that has nothing to do with the plot. Or well, it has kind of something to do with the plot. There's no one named Darling in this whole film.
It's an endearing term.
No, but the title doesn't have a comma after worry. So essentially, like grammatically, you're saying "Don't worry, darling." Like I'm saying, like I'm telling Brian, "Don't worry, Kai."
Yes, I know.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
it
like
doesn't.
in 18,000 of the film reviews. People were
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, the first one that I read, I think it was on Vox, was like, there's no, and don't get me started on the fact that there's no comma in the, so I love that you brought it
Go,
up.
Brian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean to say, yes,
I
God,
thought I was
God,
gonna
that was
bring the
annoying.
house
So
down.
annoying. Go
I
for it,
thought
Brian.
I thought both of your heads would explode like those lampposts because of that
No.
nitpick.
Mine didn't. It's still attached.
No.
So my nitpick is actually a continuation of the scene that Kai was just talking about. So when Florence Pugh, like all the things explode, and then the guys in red, whoever the fuck they are, start
Oh
running.
my God, we have to talk about
She
those guys in red.
runs to the car to drive away. Where'd she get the fucking keys from? She didn't walk out of the house with the keys. Did they just leave the keys in the ignition for anybody to drive into the car? All of a sudden, she starts the car. She had no keys before that.
Touche.
Yeah.
I did not catch
Okay.
that.
Last nitpick.
Okay, my nitpick is that when she is running, also in that ending scene, when she's running up the
Yeah.
thing, she like the car gets stalled and then she decides she's gonna run for it. It's like every shot that we see, the red guys look like they're right behind her, or the guys in the cars look like they're right behind her, and then she takes like 5 minutes in whatever the next
Yeah.
scene is of like how tired we are, or how tired she is, or. I was just like, they're
The pacing of
literally
that, yeah.
right behind you,
Mhm.
and now they're not. And then they are, and now they're not.
Which
Yeah.
leads me to another nitpick. Wasn't it nighttime and then when she gets there, it's like daytime?
No, I think it was always daytime.
Yeah, I don't remember it being nighttime.
Even when she's leaving? Because the car crashes at night, right? Isn't the car crash at night?
No.
Car
Am I
crash?
crazy?
No.
Yeah, when-
No, the desert in the.
Yeah.
No.
Is that during
Uh-uh.
the day?
Yeah, I think so.
Is there some color glitch thing happening with your TV?
Maybe. I don't know.
Eyes.
Maybe I watched it with sunglasses on. I don't know. Okay, so now that the people who have not seen this movie are thoroughly confused, let's go over the actual like what happens. But actually, this could probably be summed up in one like sentence.
Didn't Google already do that?
Yeah, but like they didn't really.
But
Like-
she wanted to elaborate, so you can be the elaborator.
We open on a 1950s-esque like community that is being run by a cult leader, and then we end up finding out there's something darker behind it. But the twist ends up being that the women are actually peeing into a bedpan while having VR glasses on, essentially. Like that's what's happening.
They're in a virtual world. It's not actually the 1950s or early 60s.
It's modern day.
It's modern day, but yeah, that was my question too. Of like,
My
does she not
homeboy's
have
pain-
bed sores and like?
Well, and those things prompt
Yeah.
her eyes open. So, like, don't her eyes get dried out as fuck? Like, those things, she can't close her eyes. It's totally open.
What they don't tell us is there's also 24-hour nursing aides who are just dropping eye drops into their eyes.
That
and
tracks.
My other nitpick
feeding
is
them
like
through
this
a
is
tube.
advanced technology. This is advanced technology, but apparently you could afford it off of the minimum wage deadbeat job.
Yes.
That, like
Also,
Yeah.
well, that's like a hair and makeup thing, but the way that they make Harry Styles look, I was like,
Yeah.
Florence Pugh, get your ass out of there. Get your ass out.
And he's not British, so he
Man,
loses
he's
half the
great
charm
bait.
in real life anyway.
Okay, can I just ask? This
Yes,
is maybe one more
yes,
nitpick. I just got to
yes,
ask the
yes,
question.
yes.
Florence Pugh actually is British.
So is Harry Styles.
Yes.
Yeah, she is.
But why did Harry Styles have the British accent and
They
his
said
wife
that at
does
one
not?
point.
They did? Okay.
I think it's because they said it in there that when he goes into the virtual reality, he selected to have a British accent.
Oh, he decided
but I'm
to
like,
be British.
actually, his accent kept slipping out from American. So they're probably like, oh shit, where can we add that he wanted to be British? Because in the modern day scenes, he's very, very strictly like American. It's pretty good, but he doesn't say a whole lot. He's just moping around and he's like,
Okay,
the
so
sink, blah, blah, blah.
So
I want to
he-
have sex. Blah.
he does mope a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
He mopes kind of though, even in the virtual world too. Or not mopes, but he's like quiet about everything. He
Yeah.
just sits
Yeah.
and
It's
makes
probably because he
faces.
knows he's actually a loser. Like, I don't
Oh yeah. Sad.
like it doesn't take his mental it does
Yeah, but in this
yeah,
world,
you're in this
he's big
virtual
shit,
reality,
though.
but at the same time, you know that you're like pooping your pants right now in your bed. Like that doesn't go away.
Or also that like I can be here for this amount of time, but then I have to get up and go to my crap job in the real world.
Like they're evicting us right now, and they're willing out our bed.
So one thing that I didn't understand about the plot is they say at the end that when Florence Pugh kills Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde's character says, when men die here, they die in the real world. And then she also says, they're going to come kill you, your real body. You have to go. So
Okay.
what I gathered from this, or my sort of understanding, what I took away from that, and I want to know what you guys took away from that, but I was guessing that it meant that the guys in red in the real world, so whoever is like the version of the guys in red in the real world, if Harry Styles died in the virtual reality, they would go kill him, but they also would end up killing her.
So
No.
I remember that line as well. That when the men die in here, they die in the real world as well. Which had me confused as to so then why are the women caring about dying if they're not gonna die as much? Like
So
because they very specifically say if the men die. They
Right.
didn't say like if anyone dies here,
Right.
we die. So that's why I'm like, so like why do we care so much? Why do the women care so much about dying in this world?
Well, because they
Well,
don't know that they're
No, but
not
like
in the real
Florence
world.
Pugh, like why didn't she just like become Neo and like start bending walls and
not
like
that kind
know,
of movie, I guess.
Well, I will say she does drive that car that had to have been a stick shift without
Kai.
once moving a stick shift. So so she did.
I thought this was
she
gonna be a
did do
woman
some
joke.
magical things. What?
I thought you were gonna make a woman joke, and I'm like Kai.
No. I just said there was like no shot. You know, when you're watching somebody
Yeah.
race a car like that, you see them do the movement of like, I have to switch gears when I'm going to speed
Well,
down this highway.
maybe in this
and not
magical
once-
world, they just give everybody automatics.
That's what I mean. Is
So
like
the way I interpreted
there is magic in this
the way I interpreted
Yeah.
that line from Olivia Wilde was that basically like if anybody dies in the I'll just call it the dream world, whatever it is, they die in real life, and that by her killing Harry Styles, because she's still laid out on a bed somewhere, they were going to come kill her in real life because they can't have
Right,
her
they
waking
have to.
up
There's
telling
no one else
everybody
to-
what's happening and stuff.
Right.
So you took it as
Or it
anyone can
wouldn't-
die then.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't even be they can't have her waking up because well, yes, they can't have her waking up, but also she would just rot in her bed because he
That's
was the only
true.
one taking care of her.
True.
Right. So she would eventually end up dying in both worlds.
I had this conversation with Amanda, who I watched the film with, and I was asking these same questions. I'm like, wait, like she specifically said if the men die. And then Amanda was also saying what Brian's saying, like she agreed with you, Brian, of like, no, if anyone dies in this world, they die in real life.
I knew
And I'm
she
like,
was
but
smart.
that's not what they said.
That wasn't the line.
No,
yeah.
but I think it's more. I think you might have said this, Travis, that the men, other than Olivia Wilde, the men are the only ones who know. So like the women are not thinking about dying or anything like that because they just think they're living this safe existence. So it's only like the men who know what is happening.
Right. And Olivia Wilde. So
Right,
that's
right.
another thing.
I still don't get, like, then why didn't she just say, if we die here, we die in real life?
Right. I
Yeah, I
get
don't
that.
know.
Okay, so that's one of our nitpicks.
Because, like, also then that's setting, like, what if Florence is like, oh, so then
I'm good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to die. Like,
Yeah.
I could just ram my car into all the men and, like, kill them all.
So I actually wrote, so I ended up not taking as many notes for this movie as I normally do because I was so thoroughly confused for most of it. My second to last note was, I have no fucking clue what I'm watching right now. Because that was kind of like until the end, until you figure out, like, I feel like when you look back on it, things make more sense knowing that they're in this virtual world and how everything turned out. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes more sense. But at the time, I was so thoroughly confused with everything that was going on for most of the movie.
Okay, I have a question because I get that, like, plot-wise, we all have some, like, okay, what actually happened? What was this world? Those types of questions. But at the end of the day, after watching the movie, could you tell me what this movie was about?
Yes. I think so.
What did you think it was about?
Well, I mean, basically, unhappy people find a way to live in what they think will be a more happy life.
But ultimately, it's a lie.
Well, yes, it is.
Right. But I guess what is the statement of this movie? I'm always looking for, there's always like a line, right, that some character says that you're like, oh, that, and it's usually like 15 minutes into the movie where you're like, that's what this movie is about. And oftentimes it's like something said to the main character for them to reflect on, right? And the only thing that I wrote down was like, because it was said at the top and then it's repeated later by the ballet instructor. She says, remember, ladies, there's beauty in control. There is grace in symmetry. We move as one. And I just kept thinking about that beauty in control. So, like, life is just meant to be beautiful. So we must control it. I was just trying to, like, what is my takeaway from this movie? Like, you can't try to live in a different reality because it's not going to work out anyways.
Yeah. To go off of what the film was trying to get at, let me explain this to you, Karen, because you're clearly not getting it.
Great. Please.
It's okay. Some of these concepts just way too big.
Way too.
Can you
way too
mansplain us?
Yeah. I'm joking. Going off of what you're saying, I took that as like, life is only beautiful when you're in full control of it, and clearly she's not in control for the entirety of the film until the end.
See, I actually almost took it
but
the opposite way, that you can't try to control these things because then you're just living a lie. That, like, even though yeah, so like, and even at the end, she's like, I loved working, I love what I did, and he's thinking she's miserable, but maybe, you know, she's thinking she was happy, but she's actually miserable in this quote unquote perfect controlled scenario.
okay,
I think what the film's trying to say is that to just, you know, talk to your significant other. Just ask them questions.
yeah.
Like, are you
Don't
enjoying this?
assume things and then tell them not to worry, darling, and create a whole other world for them.
Yeah,
I
and
actually
when you
just thought of
do,
another nitpick.
add a comma.
I thought of another nitpick. So in real life, she's a doctor. She seemed to be some sort of surgeon, potentially.
No, she's a surgeon.
Yeah, she's a surgeon.
Like, she was.
That's what I was going to
Yeah,
say. She
she's
seemed
a
to be some
surgeon.
sort of surgeon.
Oh, I thought she was she is a surgeon. I thought she walks out and it's like she was helping with the surgery.
I mean, they did call
she's
her
not.
doctor when she was leaving.
They called her doctor.
Oh, okay, I missed
yeah.
that.
They called her doctor, and then she made a reference to, like, I was in surgery all day.
Yeah, I sewed
So
up
I
like
was
12
like, so you're a
people
surgeon.
today. So my nitpick is, what doctor is not making enough money to afford a better apartment than that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was waiting for production design and for
I have a lot on
technical
that.
to
Yeah,
bring this
yeah,
up,
yeah.
but I had a big problem with their depiction of, like, what their life looked like. And I'm just like, even if you're a surgeon, is there nonprofit surgeons out there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Surgeon.
even if
Well,
you're,
that's why I assumed, because I missed the doctor thing, I assumed that she was maybe like a hospital, not an intern, but I was like, she's lower on the totem pole. She's in these surgeries. She's having
She's
to
the
work
janitorial
30.
staff at the hospital.
No, but she's
I
like,
was cleaning up all the blood in the surgery room.
Yeah, I mean, like,
really, when she said
Yeah,
I
it would've
sewed up
made
all
more
those
sense if
people,
she
what
was
she
a-
meant is she was picking up the extra string off of the
Yeah.
humans after they were
Well,
sold.
Brian, go for it.
I was gonna say,
I have
like,
something to say to what you're about to
it
say.
would have made more sense if she was like a surgical assistant or I don't even.
Thank
I,
you.
like,
That's
yeah,
the
I don't,
word
I
I
don't
was looking
know enough
for.
about the roles of. Even though I've had enough surgeries, you'd think I would, but I don't know enough about like the order in a hospital. But like, I'm pretty sure that she was a surgeon,
Yeah.
which should be making pretty good money to live in like a decent spot.
I don't think it would just make more sense if it was different. I think the movie would have a bigger impact on what it was trying to say if they had a really nice apartment and a really nice life and he was still upset. Because then he would be upset at just her success and his impotence versus like if you depict them kind of struggling, then you give justification to some extent to like him being like, well, we're struggling, it's easier, like we could own a house in this world, we could like have all these things in this world.
No, see, but what I appreciated about it is that it was a man deciding what was best for his wife. It was a man deciding what was best for the woman in his life.
Agreed,
oh,
yeah.
You're working too much. You're working all the time. And I want from you this love, this adoration, this attention. I want someone to cook me meals. And you can't do that because you're working all the time. So he then warps it in his head that like, I'm going to save you from your work. Whereas we hear her say, I love what I do. I love working. So it's more that like, oh, he's not the number one. He's not the priority in her life. Obviously work is, and he needs to be. So he creates the story that he's saving her from her work life.
Although
that's
I could see that.
His logic is
that's
flawed.
what I
just
took out of
saying-
it, and I actually really appreciated that, or I liked the
See,
theme there.
I see what you're saying, but here's why you're wrong. No, I see what you're saying, but what I'm trying to get at is like when you put what majority of viewers would see as like a crappy situation, you give reason and like justification for his, like you could.
But that's what I'm saying. I like stories where there is some justification because that's what we all do. We take any little scrap that we can and justify a reason to not only take control of our own lives, but decide that we need to control someone else's.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that it wasn't so white
in
and
both
black
scenarios,
that way.
he would be controlling someone else's
yeah,
life.
of course,
Yeah.
of course.
What I'm saying is it would be more of a gut punch in
right,
my
stronger.
opinion.
You think it'd be a
If-
stronger choice.
Yeah, he would be more of an ass versus just like somebody could be like, yeah, he is saving her from like this really crappy apartment. I know I know she likes the crappy apartment, but like
No. I'm saying I like the fact that we can't just be like, he's a fucking asshole. Because to me, that makes him less human. The fact that like he thought he was doing it to save her is even more warped and distorted and like human, toxic.
But he can still be an asshole though.
see,
Maybe I'm not being clear about what I'm saying.
no, I mean I get what you're saying.
I
We
think I
just
understand what you're
disagree.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the irony
Any
of
other
it
plot-
is that he wants to save her from this life where she has to work all the time when she's literally working all the time because he's a loser who can't find a job. So if he could just like get his shit together.
Did he not have a job?
No, he lost
It
his
sounded
job.
like he lost
and
his
then
job.
And then she tells him at one point, she's like, "You'll find a job soon." Like,
Oh yeah.
And she
Oh,
says,
yeah, I
like, I'll
remember
pick
that.
up
Well,
extra shifts or
she's
something.
like, yeah. She tells him, okay, so one other
which
thing.
again, surgeon, I don't even think you need to pick up extra shifts. Like, I think you're
When
good
When
for
there
a
was
while.
that kind of stuff happening, that's why I was like, oh, okay.
She's clearly just a
She's
janitor.
not a. She's clearly just a janitor.
yeah,
exactly.
I feel like it,
She's clearly a receptionist at the hospital.
At the hospital.
At the urgent care.
everything would have made a
That-
little more
right,
sense if
that's
they had
the-
just changed her job, I think. And not made her a surgeon, which is generally like a very high paying job.
Right. If she was like an intern at a hospital after grad school or post grad school or whatever you have to do to
just
become
just any career. I think it could have been any career that she's grinding that she just hasn't got there yet.
Yeah.
And like people find joy in the journey to get there.
Yeah. Right.
But the fact
right.
that she's like already there is just a little bit more like,
Right.
you know.
Okay, so two things that I was thinking about the plot. One, when Florence Pugh, how and why does Florence Pugh just all of a sudden start remembering things? You know what I mean? And like coming to and having the flashbacks like we were just talking about her life as a doctor. And then when she gets into the argument with Jack, her husband, she says, I liked my job, or I used to, whatever. And it's like, all of a sudden you can remember this. You've gone through, like, there was nothing that happened that would then jar us into like, oh, this happened. So now she's starting to remember these things. Do you know what I mean? Or was it supposed to just be the fact that she touched this thing the one time? The fact that she went out there once?
I think it started with that song she kept humming, because that was a song that she remembered from like her real life.
Right. But
he
then
was
it
humming
only...
it to her, right?
Well, but she had been humming
right.
it to herself, and then when she heard him hum it.
Right, but there wasn't a consistency of that because she has these flashbacks and these things that pop up several times throughout the movie. And it's not like if it had continued to be the song, great. But like as a device, I was just sort of like, what is happening there? And then the only other thing was like Olivia Wilde's character. We learn at the end she is in the world. She has made the choice to live in the world because in the real world her kids have died, but in the virtual world she can still have her kids. So if that is the story, I would love to have seen her with her kids or have any indication that she like loved being a mother, wanted to be a mother.
Annoyed by them all the time.
Instead she seems annoyed by them. She's drinking a lot. She's talking to her friends about like, or she's talking to Florence Pugh's character about like, oh, you two are just so lovey-dovey. It's because you don't have two kids at home. Like they're annoyances. So it was this odd feeling then later in the script when like, I mean, it's not a make or break, but it just felt odd to me that we didn't
No, I agree.
push into that.
It was
I
just
think we could
hole.
sit here. I think we could sit here and pick so many different things about that. Like, why did the walls start to close in on her?
Right.
Was that actually happening, or was it just in her head?
I think that was in her head.
See, but then it's like we don't know what's in her head, what's in real life, and like we don't.
That stuff didn't bother me
Where'd the
that
plane
much.
come from?
That bothered
That was
me.
weird.
The walls
I'm
didn't
just saying
bother me. I
there were
actually
so
kinda
many
liked
things.
that.
There were so many things that happened that they don't explain. That I think were just done because like, oh, that would be cool, or that would be creepy, or that would be weird, when they could have spent time actually building out and filling out some of these plot holes or like characters or like making some of their actions make sense. The eggs, when she cracks eggs and there's nothing in it.
Yeah,
what's
that was
the point
weird.
of that?
Right.
There's so many things like that where we get like, you've already established, all right, something's weird here, something's going on, like let's figure it out.
But that's what I mean. Like she cracks the eggs and then we move on to the next scene.
Yeah.
So like that would have been the point to like she cracks the eggs and then she's like, this is just dust. What the hell? And that's when a memory comes back to her from her real life because she realizes she might not be in the real life. Like
She's
there's
like,
a
"Oh,
moment
shoot,
to have one of those
I'm from
things.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right. But like
It's
instead,
dusty.
it's like we just cut it. Instead, we do the same buttered toast coffee pour shot and move on.
Yeah.
That like kept happening over and over again.
The empty eggs was supposed to be a sign of this is not real. Like it's like almost like a glitch in the Matrix type of deal. But
Yeah, of
like you were saying, Kai, like they kind of just glossed past all these things. Like they don't
Or they
really
didn't use it as a device in a way that I feel like could have helped us
I would love
sort of
to know.
go along.
Well, so like we were talking how this was on the blacklist, which, as you were saying, Trav, is usually like a list of like almost like coveted movies in a way, like scripts that people really want to do. I would love to read the original script to see, and I guess this is maybe getting too much into like technical and directing and stuff like that, but to see how much of this was in the script, because I find it hard to believe that on the page this would have read much better. Like this as it was, like unless there were some sort of changes from script to production. So like I would love
Right,
to know
yeah.
what that original script was like to make this such a coveted script to begin with. Because like,
Well, sorry.
so I was just gonna say,
I think the idea was what really pushed this thing, right? That's what I would guess. Because
guess,
I
I don't
actually think
know.
the idea of
but
it is
it
really
though?
cool.
It's like what Stepford Wives meets Get Out, I guess. Like white people get out.
Yeah. Well, not just white people.
yeah, they're not all white.
They're not all white.
Oh yeah, there's one couple that's
There's
Right?
there's
There-
a couple
there's-
I think
different
there's
people
more.
White
who
couple.
definitely look
Yeah,
n-
there's only like one
of
couple
color. There's like
that has like more of a major role with the black woman and her husband, who I think
Maggie.
yeah.
What's that her name?
I don't remember.
Maggie.
She kills herself,
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like I think there were other
but
couples
she's
that I
back, so
saw.
she doesn't die.
She doesn't come back.
She doesn't.
No, not after she kills herself.
You don't see her again. They
No.
they keep saying that
But
she's
they
not
say
dead,
she's
but you
fine.
never see her again.
They say that she's fine, but they don't say that she's fine. They say she's not dead, but she's still very sick, having some mental stuff, which is why her and her husband had
Which
to
is really they just kick them
leave
out of the
the-
Matrix.
yeah.
Yeah.
They just unplug them.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing other
Unplugged
couples. I don't
them.
remember if it was the background of that like first pool scene at Chris Mine's house or at that giant party that they threw that had like the burlesque dancer or whatever. But I definitely remember seeing other couples that weren't just all a bunch of white people.
Moving on. Oh, I do know what I was going to say. I actually, one of the things that I did really like thinking about later after we kind of realize what has gone on is Olivia Wilde's character at some point says when it's right after Florence Pugh comes back from the hospital or whatever, when they've like done her therapy treatments, and she comes back and she's sitting on the oh my God, that's another thing. If it's just a virtual reality, why do they need to do treatments in the virtual reality?
Well, that was another question I hadn't heard about the plot of like if they're doing electroshock therapy on her,
Right.
are they doing it to her virtual reality
That's my
persona, or are
question,
they
too.
like going to their
The
apartment
house.
and like
Right. Or is her husband standing over her in the apartment doing doing electroshock therapy? Yeah.
It's a good question. I
because like
didn't think
how
about
do you
that.
reset a virtual mind?
Right. But okay, so I did appreciate though that when she comes back from that and her and Olivia Wilde are having a cocktail, Olivia Wilde mentions someone, Florence Pugh can't remember her, and then she goes, the one that's pregnant all the time. And then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, oh, right. Because once they're in the virtual reality, she's never going to have that baby. She's pregnant in the virtual reality, which is also when Florence Pugh's character gets asked by her husband, Jack, if she wants to have a baby or like, we should have a baby. And then the next time, Frank says, oh, I heard that you guys were trying. And she's like, oh, yeah, we'll see. But there's like this odd moment of that because she can't ever get pregnant.
Well, how do
in
you know
that
that?
Why can't
world,
she?
right?
In a virtual reality, or
Well,
why couldn't you?
that was my assumption.
I mean, they can do
because
whatever they want,
She
right?
doesn't. I don't know. That's what I was confused about. But like, because she's not getting pregnant in the real world, could she not then get pregnant and have a child in the virtual? I don't know.
I think she could.
I mean,
Do
they
you know what
brought
I'm
back kids
saying?
from the dead. I'm pretty sure they can make.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They could have someone have a kid.
Okay, I guess this is true.
Yeah.
Again, I still want to know what if you're so essentially what I'm getting from this is that this guy who made all these people buy into this through his podcast, his platform was like in beta still, and he's rolling it out and charging people, and
Frank.
they're like, yeah, sure, we'll sign up for beta, because so many of these things are just glitches that it's like you're controlling all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're
So
saying
it's like
is
you don't want anyone to question.
our
You don't
pod-
want anyone to question you. Then why is there a plane in the sky that crashes?
Right.
Because you control that.
what I took from this is
Right.
our podcast has power.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, moving on to acting. Why do we feel okay with everyone except for Harry Styles? And that's pretty much it, right?
So I will actually say I came into this
Don't say it.
with
Brian.
I'm gonna say I had
I'm gonna say it.
really low expectations. 'Cause I've never seen him act before. Like I don't know if he's ever even acted in anything. And I'm not gonna say he was great, but he was better than I expected. And there were a couple scenes where I was like, okay, that's not bad.
Florence Pugh was acting circles.
Well, yeah,
around
but she's
him.
like
I thought
an
it was good.
accomplished actress.
What?
I thought he was good.
Yeah, I
thought for this person stepping in and having to play against Florence Pugh and everybody else, I thought he was great. I mean, like, I didn't think like, oh, wow, what a grounded, but I did not, he didn't take me out of it in one single moment.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
His
not
British
at all.
accent didn't take you out of it?
That didn't take me. He didn't actually have like
It
that
came and
many
went.
lines.
It came and went. Like his accent drove me crazy the entire film.
No,
Because they don't say like, oh, he's choosing to be British until the end. So I'm like, you're American. You have an American accent, and now you have a British accent. Like, what is going on?
I just don't know what Harry Styles sounds like in
He sounds
general.
like a British man.
Well, sure, but like I haven't like listened to many interviews of him, so I was like, I don't know where from.
I'm just saying. I think this film could have. It needed that other really, really strong actor to really ground this relationship with the two.
so
Because you said earlier of like Florence Pugh, why are you even with him? Like I was thinking that a lot of the
Oh
times. I'm
no,
just
but
like,
that was the plot thing, which is why I mentioned it in the plot of like who this guy is, and then also the way that they made him look.
I just think Florence Pugh made him so much better than he actually was. Sorry, Brian.
No, it's fine. I started to interrupt you by accident, so I'm sorry, Trav.
We're just gonna rename this podcast as Sorry, Brian.
I'm fine with that. How about don't worry, Brian? But
worry,
no comma.
Brian.
But no comma.
Comma, yeah.
So originally, I was reading that it was actually supposed to be Shia LaBeouf playing the role of Harry Styles. But I guess, well, there was even more controversy with that, whether he was fired or he quit or who knows what happened. But yeah, I also haven't really listened to Harry Styles talk that much, but I will agree with Trav in that there were a couple times, especially early on, where I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be American or British. But he also, like you said, Kai, he didn't really have that many lines throughout the entire movie. And another thing, well, this is a technical thing that I can get into more, but like the audio levels were way out of whack in this movie, I thought. So like I actually had to put the subtitles on because I felt like their voices were so much quieter than the music a bunch of times.
That has happened for me in several movies. That didn't happen to me this time around.
But like as far as his acting, yeah, like I also felt like, and it might be like going back to what we were saying earlier, like he knows in his head that he's actually like a fuck up in real life. So like some of that real life personality, like he's more of a subdued guy, his character is anyway. So yeah, like I didn't expect, and I kept wanting to not like him. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't think he was like, he's not like Edward Norton, or anything like that, but he was better than I expected him to be for somebody who, as far as I know, has never acted in anything before.
Can we talk about red suit guy number 14? Because I thought he was clutch.
I preferred number 12.
I did think Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
I did think Nick Kroll wasn't as annoying as he usually is.
So I love
I
Nick
like
Kroll.
to watch Nick Kroll. Yeah.
I wanted more Nick Kroll.
So annoyed.
More Nick
He's
Kroll.
so damn annoying to me.
I love Nick Kroll.
And him being from Money, I'm just like, ugh.
I love Nick Kroll.
I actually, overall, I thought the acting was very solid in this film from everybody. I did not appreciate the red guys though, or the red suited men, or the shots that they gave of them. Those moments always felt stagey and sort of cartoonish, of like, they're coming to get you, and then they'd show up and they just were making this face.
I feel like that might have been on purpose,
but that's maybe a directorial, call. I will say, Florence Pugh is incredible. I always love to watch her work. But I think what I wanted, so this is just me saying what I wanted, not that she didn't give a great performance, but with this movie, and when she's starting to open up and recognize that she's not living in this virtual world, what I wanted was some confusion and some what is happening moments and some like build up to the anger. But we just got real quickly to the anger always in these performances with her. And it made me wonder if that was direction, if that's in the writing. But I did want some like those moments where she's like, I feel like I'm going crazy, and it's soft and it's tender, and like there's this where we could really actually watch Harry Styles' character like take care of her. Don't worry, darling. But all of those moments, there was such fierce like anger and desperation from her, and then him sort of shutting down. And I just wanted more of the like, oh, let's watch the man take care of the woman in these moments because she's really confused, which would have made it actually, I guess, feel more of that like, what's the movie that you mentioned earlier?
Stepford Wives?
Stepford Wives, sort of a vibe. But overall, I think all the performances were solid.
I think my one final note outside of Harry Styles is that so much of the acting of what I wanted was probably shortcomings from the script.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really wanted more Chris Pine. Like, I really think that villain could have been a lot more fleshed out. And I just didn't really, there was no sense of like fear or like there wasn't, I feel like the villain in this movie is the actual system and not necessarily him.
Well, the villain are the people that will buy into this system.
True. Yeah. Like,
it's like all
the villain is very
men.
much like Harry Styles, right? Like, but.
And all the men in the communities whose wives don't know that they're a part of this.
Agreed. But I mean, in the community that you have in the beginning, this 1950s community, it is very much, he is this like deity type, this like leader type thing that I feel like they were, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong if you two didn't get this, but I felt as though they were trying to make him be the villain in the beginning before you figure out what's
course,
and I wanted more from him and his character, but again, I think a lot of that is like script and not spending enough time with him and like not.
Also, when he has that whole moment where he basically like says to Florence Pugh in the kitchen when she's having them all over for dinner, like, thank you, I've needed a challenge, because a man who does something so brilliant always has to have challengers. But then he doesn't really set things up for there to be a challenge. She just
it's
wins
like literally
and gets
just
out.
a dinner scene and then
Well, it's also, it comes in 3/4 of the way through the movie instead of like, let's set that up in the beginning. It's just
for me,
interesting.
a big part of the reason that I said this was a bad good movie, the good part of it was overall I thought the acting was really pretty solid, and like a lot of some of the technical aspects I thought were all right, were good. I like the soundtrack. Another, while you guys were talking about,
I loved that. I wanted to talk about that so much because that like fucked me up. I loved it so much.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, but just another. I got to go back to plot real quick because I just remembered something when you were talking about Chris Pine's character. It comes completely out of left field when his wife stabs him and is like, "Now it's my turn."
Yeah.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Yes.
That made no sense at all. There was no inkling that she wanted to take over or thought she could do better. She was defending the hell out of him in that dinner scene.
Right. Well, that's the thing that made me think that when Florence Pugh comes out and the things
I thought it was like the glass was shattering.
It was
for the
like,
women.
yes, all of the women are sort of starting to wake up, but they didn't. It felt like they didn't make that choice one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like, are they waking up or are they not? Now we're all just confused as to what the fuck is actually happening here.
I made that leap to like kind of get the film there of like, oh, like they're all like awakening, I guess.
Yes.
But there's nothing that actually indicates that whatsoever.
I also just got the sense that his wife, Chris Pine's wife, was almost like in on it in a way, or like knew what was happening. I mean, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's what I thought.
But then like what? It just comes from out of. It's like it basically. I feel like this is kind of how everything went. Like Kai, how you were saying, she just goes from like 0 to angry like that. Like the whole thing basically goes from A to Z and skips all of the letters in the middle for like every single plot point. And that was another one.
Yeah, or it just leaves us in a place where like we could talk about this forever because we're like, what actually happened? There was like no,
maybe that's
not
what
in
they
a
wanted.
Good way. You know, like there's some films that are like artfully done where you're like,
here's the cliffhanger.
yeah, or like, how'd you take it from that? Or what'd you take from that? Or what'd you take from that? Like, you know, we could sit here and discuss like what happens in 2001: A Space Odyssey. But like in this, we're just like, no, what happened?
Yeah.
Like,
no press is bad press.
And with that, technical.
There's so many good things technically, I thought. So one of the first notes that I wrote down on technical was that I loved the lighting. I thought this movie was incredibly well lit. I thought the cinematography was really beautiful.
Agreed.
The color palette that they used, gorgeous. The outfits, the costume design, the makeup, the hair, mwah, so good. And then the score. I haven't listened to a score of a movie in a really long time that that made the movie for me. That held me on. That captured me so that I wanted to keep going with the film because I just wanted to keep hearing the I did that so badly.
I will say that motif was catchy.
There you go.
That like
There,
was
you do
great.
it well. Yeah.
But I think it was like the fifth scene that we see, and I'm like, okay, something dramatic's about to happen because we know that the whole chorus is going, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
she's being chased.
But they don't do it. It's all throughout the movie. It's not just in the like
I know, that's my
dramatic
problem.
things. Yeah. Well, you know what I had a problem with that was all throughout the movie? How many fucking times we see the flashbacky sequence with the ladies'
The little dancers.
legs in the circle and the dancers and the like. What is that? First of all, why that?
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
And second of all, why so many times?
Well, and
There were so many of these devices, like I said,
Because
with
it
the
looked
butter
really
and-
cool.
But it looks cool the first like 2 times, and then when you use it 18 times,
I would say all of those shots look cool. You just get you get so used to it and desensitized to it that
Yeah.
you're like, what's the
Desensitized
point?
to
Like,
it,
what?
yeah.
I mean,
was that the
Totally.
only one that the
But-
one time they have the dancer and like the martini glass at that party? Was I the only one that thought that Florence Pugh was recognizing her from those scenes? Like, there's almost like a look where she's looking at her like, oh, I know. Yeah.
I saw that.
But like,
Yeah.
why? Like, what purpose did that serve?
Again, I don't know.
I
Good
don't know.
question.
I feel like there has to be like a 3-hour cut of this movie that like,
Maybe.
hang on. There's a motorcycle going by.
Okay, then I'll talk.
I feel like there's like a 3-hour cut of this movie.
What a dick.
No, but really, I feel like there's a 3-hour cut of this movie out there somewhere that makes a lot more sense, or maybe I'm giving them a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it.
I would. There's enough in this that like if they said like this is a 3-hour cut and this is like the vision that we actually had and like set out for before Warner Brothers came in and said like we're not releasing anything that's over 2 hours,
Maybe.
because like they did that for all the DC movies. I could imagine Warner So that's the other thing with the context of this film. This is one of 2 movies that Warner Brothers had the money to put out this year. The other one was Black Adam. So
Oh, I heard bad
they
things
either-
about that.
they either thought that this was going to be Oscar worthy, or it was in the contract of like this should get a theatrical release. But for whatever reason, Warner Brothers thought that like this is one of the 2 movies we're getting behind and throwing all this money at.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we should have talked about it in the beginning, but there's expectations that come into this, and like I could see Warner Brothers or like any studio for that matter being like, we're throwing $100 million in advertising into this. No one's gonna sit and watch a 3-hour movie. We need to have this be 2 hours.
For the record,
I
it
could
was
see that.
actually 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Oh.
So it was longer than 2
Zoinks.
hours. Travis.
Oh my gosh.
I
I'm just saying.
actually,
We strive for accuracy here.
yeah. I was just going to repeat a sentence that I feel like I hear myself say every time I listen to one of our podcast episodes where I go, I actually liked it. I enjoyed it. I actually think I liked it, but really I do. I mean, I was entertained by the movie, watching it, going through it. I would watch it. I think I would watch it again, almost in a weird way, to be like, did I miss things? Are there explanations to
Yeah,
these things?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it was so beautifully shot, and I did like the score and the acting was great, that like there are enough elements of this film that like I would watch it again. Whereas I cannot say that for a lot of the things that we do on this podcast.
Yeah,
I
I would agree with that.
go for it, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say. I mean, now that when you put it that way, I would potentially watch it again because I feel like there are things that I would pick up knowing more about the movie. That the first time around, I was just like, "What the fuck is happening now?" So certain things I think would make more sense. And like you said, Kai, like I thought it looked beautiful. One of the first notes I wrote was that I just, in general, love movies that are set in the 50s or 60s, just because the fashion, the cars. I'm a sucker for
You want
those
to
kind
make
of
America
cars.
great again, Brian?
No, no, America hasn't been. No, I'm not going to get into it.
That comment, but you did it.
I just love the cars of the 50s and the 60s. I think they're
Freaking Brian.
the coolest.
Hey everyone, Travis here in the edit bay. Brian's recorder turned off at this point in the episode, so from here on out, what you will be listening to is his iPad audio. I apologize in advance, and our sound mixer, Jenstar, is definitely not happy about this. Sorry.
Shut your mouth, Travis. I'm talking.
What else did you like about the
Texas.
50s and 60s,
Texas.
Brian?
I don't know. I was only like 10 years old back then, so it's hard to remember most things.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. You talk now.
No, I agree. The production design and everything about like that era as well. I mean, that community that they shot in is like a real community in Palm Springs or Newberry Springs or somewhere out there. You know, like people still very much love that aesthetic. So you're not alone in that, Brian.
Yeah.
I love that aesthetic too. I like want to afford and have the energy to get up every morning and put on a dress like that and do my hair in such a way and walk out of the house in heels feeling like a queen. But instead I roll out of my bed, barely put on underwear and sweatpants and take my dog
And now
for
she's
a
here.
walk. Now I'm here.
Yeah. My only thing about technical, which I said before, and normally I would say maybe it's just my TV, but I watch most of the movies that we do for this podcast on this same TV that I'm looking at right now. The audio levels I just thought were so out of whack. It was like very noticeable for me from the very beginning where the music was like here and then the audio or like the vocals, the voices were down here to the point, like I said, like I actually put on subtitles because I was tired of raising and lowering the volume when there was music or talking. That was kind of like the only technical thing that really bugged me.
Any last minute things on technical?
This exhausted me.
Yeah.
That's my last minute thing.
To close on like the comments of like whether I'd re-see this again, I would probably not re-see this again. Go for it, Kai.
Lens flare. Did you guys see it? There were several shots where there's a fat ass lens flare. It especially happens in the backyard when they first go over to Frank's house and he's making a speech. There's a fat lens flare on his face. And I'm like, is that just because that was the best take of this you had performance wise? So you used it? I don't know. But rewatch that. It was like,
yeah, I don't remember that.
All over his face.
I just think on like big budget films, there's no way that a lens flare is not intentional. Like,
that's what I would
if a professional
think,
DP like shot that and it's
that's
like,
what
hey, there's
I
a big
would
lens
think,
flare.
But it doesn't. Just watch the scene again because I was kind of going, what?
I'm assuming I like
like a
just
big
thinking about it. I'm like, is
spot
there
on
supposed to be
his
like,
head.
does it make a halo around his head?
No,
Like,
it's like in his eyeball.
Oh.
Just yes,
Okay.
go back and rewatch.
Well, I was
this
gonna
evening.
say I feel like I was almost gonna watch it a second time just in preparation for this again, or for this episode, but just so much of it doesn't make sense. And I think I go down the rabbit hole that Brian does of like maybe I missed something, and I'm like, no, just like it doesn't make sense. Like there isn't nothing we
Overall,
missed.
The plot makes sense, but all of the details within the world and how it works do not.
Yeah,
it's weird though because like I said, I was watching this, and like I said, I literally wrote down the note. I don't know what the fuck I'm watching right now. But then like you figure out what's going on. And as I thought about it afterwards, there was a part of me that was like, did I like this? I'm not really sure if I like this because there were things that I did enjoy about it. And like I still didn't like it enough to the point where I called it a good movie, which is why I said bad, good movie. But that's why I said in the beginning, like I was running the gamut of things because I was like, I don't know. I hate this. But wait, maybe I actually kind of like this? I'm not really sure how to feel now. It's like Will Smith said, my life got flipped, turned upside down. Don't know what's happening right now.
How many times do you think he's going to use that?
Have I used it before?
He's from
in a
Philly.
podcast
I think
episode?
I think he's contractually.
Again, if you
like-
ever listen to our podcast episodes, Brian, you would.
I have, but I
notice all
don't. I
of
don't
them.
remember these things.
I was just recently like
You
I
were
happened
talking
to.
about the. Sorry, I totally just started speaking while you were speaking.
Do it again.
I was going to say, I was just recently listening to our episodes on Shuffle, and I actually got the rental and The Strangers back to back, and they're both the episodes where Brian quotes the Geico commercial about
yeah.
people being stupid.
I just figured it out. Travis and I are just egomaniacs who can't stop listening to ourselves.
That tracks 100%.
Yeah, Brian's
But if
like, I'm
you all
good.
listen and share, I don't have to keep listening to ourselves.
If you all listen and comment all over my page,
Yeah.
that'll fill the void, and I won't have to listen to it as much. Please.
And then maybe I will be able to find out why my father never came back from buying cigarettes.
Maybe I'll be able to fulfill the void and love
Maybe my
myself
father
a
will
little
finally
more.
come back.
Travis, I'll be your dad.
Okay, that's just weird.
I'm-
Okay.
I
That just about sums it up. I don't think any of us are changing our verdicts, and this has been a long, very weird episode of just us trying to figure out what we are doing.
It feels
guess.
fitting for the movie.
It's just about as long as the movie at this point. So
Yeah.
please follow us on all social media and let us know what you thought about the movie, or also comment below if you are watching this on YouTube. And also, don't forget to subscribe.
Smash
you
that
can find
subscribe
us-
button.
You can find us on any
yeah.
social media platforms at goodbad_badgood. You can find me on all social media platforms at Travis_Orozco. You could find Kai at,
Kylie and I on Instagram.
and Brian at.
Gossip on the grams. And I'm actually on TikTok now. People want to follow me on TikTok.
What?
Are you?
Yeah, because I
Maybe we should start a
felt like I had to
TikTok.
create a TikTok for my new job because a lot of it involves making videos for TikTok.
Until next week when we watch Brian's pick, Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm pumped for that one.
Bye.
Bye.
Good Bad Bad Good is an ex nihilo production. Original theme music and sound engineering done by Jenstar Hacker. Find her at hackersoundmusic.com. Opinions expressed are solely that of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views of any entity they represent.